I think lived experience of any journey is powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, if somebody is prepared to stand up and talk about their journey, I think it provides a real life insight into whatever that subject matter is. So I've transitioned from female to male. It's been a very long journey through from childhood to present day. And I now share that lived experience of what it's like to struggle.
Good afternoon, welcome to the Great in You podcast. My name's Steven Panter, and as you know, for those viewers that have been watching, the podcasts that we've done before, this podcast is about me meeting with some really inspirational people, talking about their stories and their journeys, and then ultimately, as a result of some of their journeys that have been traumatic or troublesome, they've then started to help other people on the back of their experiences. So welcome, and it's great to have you viewing again. And I'd like to introduce you to a friend of mine, actually, that I've worked with for, I think, about 5 years, Christian Owens. Good afternoon, Christian.
Hi, Stephen.
Really nice to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. And, obviously, we do these podcasts. We invite our guests in. We have guests from all walks of life. I've known you for about 5 years from my work. And something that we've done quite regularly is I've brought you in to deliver training in my schools and for some colleagues in the past. So I don't know if you want to say a little bit about yourself and what, why you're here, really.
Yeah, well, it's lovely to be invited. And I'm Christian Owens. I'm the founder of Gender Space UK, and I work as a professional and motivational speaker nationally across a diverse range of organisations. And as you've just touched on, I've done a little bit of work for yourself. Yep. So I specialise in gender transition and specifically in the lived experience of transitioning.
Okay.
And I use that journey to educate people and inspire people.
Brilliant. So can you tell the viewers a little bit about what that means then, that lived experience, and what that means to you?
Yeah, well, I think lived experience of any journey is powerful, isn't it? And, if somebody is prepared to stand up and talk about their journey, I think it provides a real life insight into whatever that subject matter is. So for me, I've transitioned from female to male. It's been a very long journey through from childhood to present day. And I now share that lived experience of what it's like to struggle with gender identity.
Yeah.
And the difficulties of the journey of gender transition as well.
Yeah.
Because I think people often don't understand just how long and difficult and challenging it is.
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to sharing some of that journey with you today. And I think some people still kind of struggle and misunderstand what that is, what gender transitioning is. It's in the media everywhere, isn't it? I think lots of people have got an opinion about it, haven't they?
Yeah.
So today is about kind of, I suppose, kind of clarifying some of those terms, some of those positions and how this is maybe represented in the media. But also your journey is really important, isn't it? Because we do these podcasts because we want people that are watching them to maybe learn from them, and be educated. They might have a family member or somebody that's close to them that's going through that same journey. Absolutely. And they're not sure what to do. It's never happened in their family before.
Yeah.
They just don't know what to do for the best. They've got family members who they love dearly, but they don't know what to do, for the best, really.
Yeah.
So what I try doing in this podcast is I try and kind of go back before we go forward first. Mm. I try and kind of talk about like childhood, like what that was like, what your feelings were like, when you were growing up, what type of feelings did you have around gender, and around, where you fit within the world and within your family. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, and what life was like growing up for you.
Yeah.
It's a broad question, but I think it gives everybody some insight into where we're trying to get to, really.
Definitely. And I think it's an important question because for me personally, and for a lot of trans or non-binary people, the journey begins in childhood. Even though that maybe, for people like me a long time ago. So I was born in 1971. I grew up in Runcorn, and I was born into a practicing Catholic family. So faith was very strong. Religion was strong. We went to church every Sunday. Went to Catholic schools. I'm the youngest of 4 children, the youngest of twins. And growing up, I was privileged to be part of a loving, accepting family. But also I was very different. I felt very different, probably from about the age of 6 or 7, with regards to my gender identity.
Can you remember pinpoint the moment, or was it just? Did you just start to feel stronger feelings around your gender? Was there something, a specific moment that kind of triggered?
I don't know whether there was a specific moment, but I do remember growing up in the early years, because I was a twin with a twin sister, so born female, and we were dressed the same. So we were put in the same dresses or, the same clothes. And it got to a point where I almost rebelled against that. But I think there was something deeper for me.
Yeah.
So more than just, I don't like that dress, it was, I don't feel like a girl.
Okay.
So there was a time around that age, 6 or 7, and you can see it in family photos when you look back, where there's this change and I'm wearing boys' clothes.
Yeah.
And that's when I first started to identify.
And I've seen that on your presentations as well. You show some quite personal family pictures. You talk about your family, don't you?
Yeah.
And I've seen some of those pictures, so I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
So obviously you were 6 or 7. You started to get those feelings. Were you able to speak to anybody at that time? Were you able to talk to anybody?
No, and I think, maybe that was the era and the generation.
Yeah.
It was the 70s. I went to a Catholic school and it was difficult. And at home, we didn't talk about subjects like sexuality or gender identity. So although my parents and siblings were loving and it was a safe place, we didn't talk about those subjects.
No.
So I think that's when I really started to struggle, particularly with high school,
Yeah.
Teenage years, puberty.
Yeah.
And that's what I was looking for in high school. I was looking for somebody to speak to me, to safeguard me.
Yeah.
To open this conversation.
There weren't those systems in place, were they? I think I picked up on a previous podcast about when I was in school and difficulties. You didn't feel like you could talk to anybody. You just wanted to fit in, didn't you? And get yourself in line and just, literally, and just not stand out from the crowd. And those that did were quite often bullied, weren't they? And it was a different time, I think.
It was a different time, wasn't it? But I think you just kind of hit the nail on the head there about, as a teenager, you just want to fit in.
Yeah.
You want to be like everybody else.
Yeah.
It's only when you grow up, you realise that difference is a strength, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think, in the 80s, Section 28 was introduced when I was 16 in high school.
Yeah.
With restrictions on teachers.
Yeah.
Again, talking about subjects like this.
Yeah.
So that was, a really difficult and challenging time for me.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your kind of final few years in primary then, when you started to have those feelings. You were probably, what year, kind of 4, weren't you? Kind of 3 or 4, 3 going into 4. Yeah. What was that like in school? Did you feel different in school? Were your peers starting to notice anything? Were there, those signs that maybe you were, did any teachers kind of speak to your parents or anything like that? I suppose the reason I'm asking that is that I think for some parents and some, carers and young people themselves that are going through the journey, it's like, what happened in those early stages where you needed support? Do you know what I mean? So I suppose that's the background behind that question.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And I think, looking back to primary school and even the latter few years, I didn't feel as under pressure or as if it was as difficult as high school. Yeah. I think because that peer group pressure isn't around at that age. Yeah. And we don't have as many labels, at that age. So I suppose that I didn't really stand out. Yeah. And also I think maybe people thought I was just a bit of a tomboy.
Yeah.
Who likes playing football and cricket. And
because that was a term that was used, wasn't it?
That was a term, and I'm sure my parents thought the same.
Yeah.
You're going through a phase.
Yeah.
So primary school years, they weren't really a problem for me.
Yeah, you just kind of, it was okay. It was when you got into high school that you started to kind of, I suppose, see potential issues for yourself.
Yeah, because I think things change quite a lot, don't they, with regards to your peers and the pressure and fashion.
Yeah.
And clothes become a lot more important, don't they? And that's when I really started to stand out, because I didn't fit in anywhere.
Yeah.
I didn't fit in with boys. I didn't fit in with girls. I wasn't in a popular crowd. And that's where the kind of loneliness.
Do you know, like
started.
as you're older, you kind of reflect on your past, don't you? And reflect on how you were and your interactions with people. Did you feel that at the time? Do you remember vividly feeling that, or that you didn't fit in?
Oh, absolutely.
You did?
Absolutely. I remember feeling, because I would say my twin sister was quite popular, and she found it okay fitting in. So yeah, I just remember thinking, people don't like me. I feel really awkward. I want more friends, and I just don't know what to do about it. But I always felt on the fringe of everything that was happening in school. Like social events or discos, things like that. I just felt like I was the one stood at the side.
So do you remember anything that you did to try and compensate for that then? Because quite often young people will try and compensate when they're not getting what they need from social situations. Did you make any adjustments? Did you try and change things? Did you have that in your kind of toolkit, if you like?
I think I probably struggled with that, because I just remember feeling very just withdrawn, and struggling with finding the skills that I needed to find a way out. I think I kind of resorted to kind of spending a lot of time at home, away from people.
So you became less social, a little bit more isolated, a bit more ostracised.
Yeah.
Okay.
And because the school I went to, the Catholic school, was quite a distance from home.
Yeah.
When I was there, I just stayed at home. So I think I kind of compensated with, I remember being really close to my dad.
Yeah.
Like my dad's shadow.
Yeah.
And we went everywhere together. And I think that's because I didn't have any friends.
Yeah.
I didn't have people of my age. So I became, quite an old young person, if that makes sense.
You perhaps felt more comfortable around adults.
Yeah.
Is that
absolutely
fair to say? Yeah.
I remember my mum talking about a holiday to Scarborough in 1977, and she lost me for a moment, and she said, I know where he'll be. He'll be with a group of old people, in the middle of the conversation, laughing at the jokes and stuff. And I was.
Yeah.
So I think that was how I compensated.
Yeah.
It was spending time with older people, my grandparents, my dad.
So I suppose that helped you in those relationships, didn't it? But didn't help you in those social situations with your peers. Do you remember any like bullying situations? Do you remember anything significant? I remember things from when I was a kid. I was like, racially, I was abused in school. I remember the kid's name. I remember exactly when it happened, and it sticks with you, doesn't it? Yeah. Is there anything that happened to you that you're happy to share that kind of sticks with you, with what people said to you?
I think for me, I don't recall, because I was struggling at that time with sexuality as well as gender identity.
Yeah.
So, I was definitely thinking, I think I'm gay, and as well as gender identity. So there was it was twofold, really.
Yeah.
I don't really remember any kind of homophobic, verbal abuse or violence towards me.
Yeah.
And people, I don't think back then even knew what transgender was.
Yeah.
So I think that didn't even come into it. I think it was just more a case of, slurs about the fact that I wasn't fashionable, and the clothes that I wore, I didn't fit in that way. I wasn't a popular kid.
Yeah.
So it was more about that, pushing me to one side, never wanting to pick me, in your lineup for sports and things like that. People never wanted me in their team. And
so it's kind of that emotional stuff rather than anything physical.
Yeah.
It wasn't, you weren't beat up or anything like that.
No.
Which is amazing, isn't it? That didn't happen.
Yeah.
I was never beaten up either, but I think you remember the verbal stuff, I think, a little bit more, don't you? So yeah, thanks for sharing that. Just to pick up a point on what you said before, just for our kind of listeners as well and our viewers. When you talked about, obviously, the gender kind of considerations that you had, but then you were struggling with sexuality as well. Some people, I think, that don't understand the area, that don't explain a little bit how that works, because some people would be like, well, if he wants to be in a man's body, but then he fancies this, or he doesn't fancy that, or can you explain that a little bit? Because I think some people might be we've talked about it before,
Yeah.
and I fully understand, but just for our kind of viewers, really.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating subject,
really
isn't
is,
it?
yeah,
Because there are definitely blurred lines
Yes.
a little bit with sexuality and gender identity. So, for me growing up as a teenager in high school, I was feeling attraction towards girls.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was a girl at the time, but I felt like a boy. And sometimes when I talk about this, people can get a little bit confused, which I really understand.
Yeah.
But for me, I think because I wasn't completely where I needed to be, as in I've always felt like a boy and wanted to be a man, the sexuality was just a little bit, it was almost like I was really exploring it.
Yeah.
But for me at that time, the attraction, it felt the attraction was towards women,
Right.
towards girls. How that fitted in the early years then with my gender identity, I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I went on a journey of transition that I started to realise that, I felt more comfortable with my sexuality.
Yeah.
But until I transitioned, it was still a little bit of an unknown to me. I didn't know where I fitted.
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of, it seems like that's a theme in your early years, in your early kind of adolescence, if you like. That was a theme. So we'll come back to that because it's interesting where you've got to, through that journey. And I know it, but obviously our viewers don't know it yet.
Yeah.
So we'll come back to that. We'll just press pause on that a minute. So what I wanted to talk about as well was, like, obviously we've talked about school, we've talked about, the incidents and not kind of fitting in, but nothing major that happened. Just that general feeling of not fitting in and being part of something. So so at home, how did you fit in with your family? How were your mum and dad with you? Did you hear conversations that they were having? Did they say anything to you direct that made you kind of, stop in your tracks and be a bit like, oh, maybe the people that are closest to me are starting to sense that difference in me? Did you get any of that?
We were a very loving family, lots of compassion there. But with the religion mixed with the time, in the kind of 70s and 80s, there was no discussion about things like relationships or sexuality or gender identity. So I kept it very hidden. And even to the point, I remember, when I got to that really important age, kind of 16 and 17, you're moving towards relationships. And I wanted to see other people like me. Representation. I wanted to see people on TV.
You didn't have that?
Well, I remember seeing Ian McKellen on the Wogan show.
Okay.
And I was 17 and I turned it on and I thought, oh, I've got to watch this because he's gay. As another gay person.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad told me to switch the TV off. So that's kind of what it was like back then.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I think they could see that I was potentially maybe leaning towards a certain direction in life or exploring something, but it just wasn't an open conversation.
Yeah, and that must have been difficult, or did you just kind of accept at the time that that's just the way it was for now?
I think inside there was a little bit of rebellion.
Yeah.
Like, well, why can't we talk about it? But when I look back now as an adult and I look back at the 80s and do you know that the positive kind of discussions, even on TV, it just wasn't there really.
Yeah.
So no wonder my parents were quite closed like that.
And there was nobody to educate anybody else around that, was it? It's quite open and out there now, isn't it? And there's lots of education, lots of voices, lots of people that put their opinion into this area.
Yeah.
But that just, I can imagine then that there was just nothing.
There's no internet,
no,
and everything. Yeah. So it was just that time of that period of time, wasn't it really?
Yeah.
But I did think it made my kind of isolation worse.
Yeah.
Because then I had to kind of start secretly seeking out support because I knew I was struggling. So,
So how did you do that then? In what ways?
Well, I remember because we didn't have mobile phones either.
We certainly didn't. I said to kids in an assembly I was delivering the other day, we never had mobile phones when we were your age, and they were all just like, it's like unfathomable, isn't it, for them, But we didn't,
No, we didn't have computers, so I I remember walking to the phone kiosk. That was a good kind of 15, 20 minutes walk away from home. And I rang the LGBT switchboard in London, which is still going today.
Yeah. Wow.
And
what age were you then?
So I would have been 16 going on 17.
Okay, so just finished your GCSEs.
Yeah, going into sixth form.
GCEs probably at that point,
It was,
wasn't it? Or
yeah.
O-levels.
O-levels.
Yeah.
And I rang the switchboard, and that's where I got some help and found out about local support.
Right.
But then it was that, next big decision, wasn't it? Well, how do I get there? Because in a town like Runcorn, that support isn't there. You have to go to a city like Liverpool.
Yeah. So what did that feel? Can you remember that conversation? Do you remember it quite well?
I can, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember what that felt like? Like actually thinking, God, there's actually people out there that are like me, that can advise me, that have experienced things like me. Can you imagine? Can you remember what you kind of felt?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was liberating.
Yeah.
It was liberating because I was kind of moving from this, period of isolation and not fitting in and not knowing what to do, nobody to talk to, and all of a sudden realising, well, actually, there are people I can talk to, and it was liberating, and it gave me hope, that I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
Because I think there's that feeling of like, I am the only one in the world that feels like this.
Yeah. Because even now, like in schools, you've got, LGBT groups in schools. They're linked to kind of the different agencies within the town centres. I imagine people still feel it a little bit, but maybe not as much as you did when you were younger. And I think the reason we talk about this as well is to get that insight for people when, they're watching, this podcast is what were the emotions surrounding, and nobody wants anybody to feel isolated, do they, in any area of their life. So I think sometimes people forget that aspect of it. Forget that actually there is a lot of isolation when you're trying to figure out who you are and where you fit in the world and what, and I think, so thanks for kind of sharing that insight, really.
Yeah.
So how did you get on at school? Did you do okay?
I think considering, what I was going through and the feelings I was having and, the struggles I was having, I think I probably overcompensated with academia, where I threw
quite
myself.
Studious, you threw yourself in.
Yeah, because I had no friends. So in a way, I suppose I sat at home being really studious.
Yeah, well, it was something that you could control, wasn't it? I suppose.
Yeah.
And you can, if you put the work in, if you revise, if you study, if you are studious, then it's likely that you're going to do better than you would be if you didn't do those things, isn't it?
That's
in that sense, you could control it.
And you find something as well that you're good at, and it makes you feel better about yourself.
Yeah.
Well, I am good at this, and so I did really well.
Yeah.
At school.
That's great.
And did come out with all my qualifications, everything that I was hoping to get.
Yeah. So you'd finished school, you'd got good grades. Were there any friends that you picked up along the way? Did you have a few friends that kind of got you and knew you, and that you could maybe start speaking to as you got older? Because I think you go from like 12 to 14, 15, 16, you don't really open up to many people as a teenager, do you? My son's 16 now, and he's just coming out of that and starting to really open up more. But did you find people, in those later years of your schooling that you could, that you could chat to about what was going on and share your feelings?
I think when I moved into sixth form, it becomes a little bit more grown up, doesn't it?
Yeah. No uniform, and
it's your first experience of adulthood. I think that's when I really started to find, a small circle of friends. I wouldn't say I particularly started to open up about my feelings.
No.
Still at that point, I think
still
it was
quite scared to.
I think it was the barrier of school, maybe, and but I suppose I was fortunate enough to find a teacher who became my friend. Well, he's still my friend today.
Yeah.
He's 70 years of age, and
can you say his name, or?
Yeah, so
you don't have to, by the way. But
yeah, so his name is Alan Moore.
Okay.
He was my German teacher, German O-level teacher, and he was the person who, I suppose, the only person who spotted my vulnerability and spoke to me about it. And he was the person I confided in about my feelings of sexuality, and So he was the person that kind of safely got me to the youth group that I started to come to in Liverpool.
Okay.
And so I suppose he was my friend.
Yeah, he opened up those doors for you.
He opened up those doors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about that then, and that friendship, and maybe we'll come back to it maybe a little bit later on, the later friendship you've developed, but what was it? What did he do? 'Cause I suppose, I mean, the Great Schools Trust are an education establishment. We have schools, we talk about education, talk about the power of teaching and the power of actually, working with young people and listening to their voice and stuff like that. So we've got a good example here, haven't we, of somebody that really helped and supported you and probably changed the kind of direction of your life. It's as powerful as that, isn't it?
It is as powerful as that. He enabled me to begin my journey.
Yeah.
I can't put it in any other way than that. But he also took risks for me, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
Because at the time we confided and we spoke about it because he was worried about me.
Yeah.
He was worried about my well-being, my mental health, because I was so withdrawn.
Yeah.
It was 1988. It was the year Section 28 was, brought in, which prohibited, certain teaching in schools about homosexuality. And he went out of his way to speak to this child. Yeah. He was really struggling. And without his help, I don't know what I would have done, really.
Yeah.
And all it took was for him to sit me down like we're sitting here today and just to say, look, if you want to talk about anything, you can. Yeah. Because I'm here to listen to you.
That's good.
And that was the beginning. So I told him how I was feeling and he found the support for me. And that's where my journey did really begin. That's where I found those friends you refer to.
Yeah.
So they weren't from my school, but they were in the youth group.
Yeah.
Same age as me.
So tell us about the youth group then. So can you remember the first day you went to it? Can you remember?
Yeah.
You probably remember what you were wearing. Yeah, I was going to say. Remember what you're wearing and remember, it sounds like you can remember that quite vividly. So
yeah, and it was quite a similar journey today from the train station because I came on the train from Runcorn to Lime Street. It was a school night, and I didn't tell anybody where I was going, other than my twin sister. But I didn't tell her where I was going. I just said I'm getting a train to Liverpool. I'll be back soon. And off I went. Yeah, I walked along Renshaw Street and towards Back Colquitt Street, which is where it was, and pressed the intercom buzzer. And in I went, had my directions written down on a piece of paper because that's all we had then. And in I went, and to be honest, it was quite daunting.
Yeah, I bet it was, yeah.
It was a big thing to be in a city centre, to be honest, for me. And getting on a train on a school night.
Was that the first time on your own that you'd done that?
Yeah. So it was scary in that sense.
Yeah. So you were what, 16, 17?
I was just 17.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I walked in and I just remember seeing a room full of men, young men.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any other females in the room. I remember thinking, because I was a female at the time.
Yeah.
And
I might not fit in here.
Sorry. So there were those feelings again, but I did. And I met two friends on the first night who happened to live in Runcorn. And we started sharing lifts.
Nice.
And they both became lifelong friends of mine. I saw one of them recently when I delivered a presentation for their organisation.
Oh, brilliant.
And we hadn't seen each other for all that time.
Brilliant. So obviously, your education, your early years, that, that kind of gives you that foundation, doesn't it, for who you are as a person, what your resilience is like, how you kind of tackle issues and deal with issues.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of move on now to that kind of, your kind of gender transitioning, not fast forward too far, but can you tell us a little bit about, so obviously you were in college, you left college, you started working, I imagine.
Yeah.
Remember what your first job was?
I got my first job within the Department of Work and Pensions, so civil service.
Very nice.
And kind of, I think that's what kind of led me on to policing, because I started to do the kind of fraudulent work, finance work, and interviewing people, and I thought, I quite like this.
Transferable skills.
Yeah.
So you started there and,
Started there.
Did you start? I'm jumping backwards and forwards here, but did you start? When you were in the group, the youth group, did you start to build up confidence and like socially? Did you start to feel like you were finding your place a little bit? You had friends that were like you or that had the same interests as you. Did your confidence start to go? Did you start to become a bit more sociable and more?
Yeah, absolutely. I found my community.
Yeah,
I think that was the difference. I found my community, and people talk about that all the time. What does that mean?
Yeah,
I found a group, a family of people who were like me, who I felt comfortable with, who I did fit in with.
Yeah,
and so my confidence did grow.
Yeah.
Started to identify properly as gay and be open about it, and maybe start dating people and find friends.
So who were you dating at the time? Were you dating women?
Yeah. Only dating women at that time.
Yeah.
So identifying as a gay woman.
Yeah.
I think kind of mid to late 80s, which is this time period, there wasn't really that much trans visibility. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
But youth groups were gay youth groups.
Yes.
People that you saw on TV were gay people. So that was, I suppose, why my journey to becoming trans was quite long and drawn out.
Yeah. So you started your job in the department. How long were you there for? In that
5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I worked for the civil service for 5 years.
And in that 5 years, did anything change personally for you? Did anything? Were you starting to think about your gender a lot more, or what was the point where that kind of happened? I think I'm trying to get take our viewers through a little bit of a journey of your life to try and not miss things out, but try and look at those significant points in your life. And so I suppose when you were in Department of Work and Pensions that 5 years, probably lots happened in that 5 years. But can you remember anything in particular where you were starting to think about your gender and about that aspect of things?
Yeah, I think it was to do with kind of the social aspect of it and meeting people and starting relationships. Because for me, and I really don't want to confuse people, but for me, my gender identity was very linked to my sexuality.
Yeah.
So I think in the exploration of my sexuality, I always felt, because I've always felt like a man, even as a young child, I always felt that there was an attraction to men there, but as a man. So on a few occasions I tried dates with men, but I always got to this point where this isn't for me because I need to be a man.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that actually makes sense because I'm a gay man now, which is how I've always felt that I should have been.
Yeah. And that's what we were talking about before, that confusing aspect for people listening are like, well, wait a minute. So, and it's like they try and kind of figure that out. I've got quite a bit of insight because we've had a few conversations, haven't we?
Yeah.
About it before. But
so I think that was part of the exploration of gender identity because I found whenever I had dates or tried to become intimate with men, it kind of stopped at a point where I thought, no, this doesn't feel right for me as a woman.
Yeah.
But then relationships with women felt that it's where I needed to kind of put myself until I could get to where I got to.
That's understandable. Hopefully our listeners will understand that as well, that, what your thought processes are, what your feelings are, where you kind of feel comfortable or not. And I think it's a process, isn't it?
It's a process, yeah.
That's the key thing. You've got to figure that out for yourself, haven't you?
Yeah.
And people will say, there'll be, lots of people will say, well, why didn't he do this? Or why, and that's just your journey, isn't it? And that's what you went through and you experienced.
It's a very personal journey.
Of course it is.
An individual journey.
Yeah, of course.
And it even, because sexuality and relationships overlap with gender identity and your body parts and how you feel about them and whether you feel any dysphoria.
Yeah.
And that all interlinks with if you have relationships or if you get naked with somebody or if you have sex with somebody.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your body as it is right now?
Does it feel natural? Does it feel like you want to do that and see that through? And I think sometimes whether a young person exploring sexuality, you might have an idea and maybe I don't know, something that you think that might be a good thing. It's like it's an idea, isn't it? It's not the reality. But when the reality comes, then then you kind of think, oh, well, no, this isn't for me, or this is for me, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's an exploration, isn't
it? Of course, yeah. And I think take gender out of that for a second, and lots of people go through that journey, don't they?
Yeah.
So it's thanks for kind of sharing that insight as well. So when did you join the police then?
So I've 5 years in the civil service now. 23. I tried to join a lot earlier.
Yeah.
I remember trying to join Cheshire Police when I was 18, and they told me to go away and get some life experience.
Right, okay.
So I did.
Yeah.
And at 23, I joined Merseyside Police.
Okay.
And yeah, that was the beginning of my 27-year policing career.
Wow. So a good decision then?
Good decision.
Yeah.
I talk about, as you know, the police during my presentations, my journey within policing. For me, I had a fantastic career. I finished on a high, but there were challenges.
Yeah. So at what point in your police career were you starting to think about your gender and starting to really, really think seriously about that? And I don't mean that by saying you weren't thinking seriously the whole time, but when did you really start to think about some key decisions when it kind of came to your gender? Some of those feelings that were maybe coming to the surface a lot more and more powerful and more. Yeah. Can you explain to us kind of what happened in that process?
Yeah, quite often people ask me, was there a moment, a pivotal moment? And I think for me, policing in the 90s, it was quite a challenging environment to work in. And if you were a woman like I was, if you were gay, trans, for lots of reasons, it was challenging. So for me, it was quite a long time before I found some courage.
Yeah.
My gender identity was there from the beginning of my career.
Yeah.
But it was something that I tried to block out because I knew that it was going to be a challenging journey.
Yeah.
So I tried to block it out as much as I could, knowing deep down that it was going to have to be addressed.
Is it fair to say
that
your career was the priority at that stage? Maybe you wanted to address some of those things, but you didn't know how to, but you were concentrating on that, your career and pushing that forward?
Do you know what? I don't think it even was that.
No,
I think I was just scared.
Yeah.
I think I was just scared of being different in an institution that didn't seem to be inclusive of it.
Right, okay.
And so I thought, if I can just, like that teenager at school, if I can maybe just fit in a little bit more, it might be better for me.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's what I did. Because sometimes if you're going to go on a journey, you've got to be ready for it. You've got to know you've got some resilience, some inner strength to cope with what's coming your way. And so I did block it out for a long time. And
did you not feel you had that resilience at the time to start that journey?
Not in that organisation.
No.
It was just too much of a step for me at that time. I probably did. I was nowhere near as confident as I am today.
Yeah.
Now that I'm authentic.
Yeah.
And being me. So if you imagine somebody living their life not as their true authentic self, there's very little confidence, self-esteem. So to make big life-changing decisions
in the public eye, pretty much in front of
in a frontline job.
Yeah. 20,000 people probably that were in the in the force. Yeah,
it was too much for me to take on, and don't forget, I was still only young.
Yeah.
So it was something I put off for a long time, and it wasn't until I suppose I reached a bit of a breaking point.
Yeah.
That I got to that where you sit down and go, I need to do something about this.
What were the overpowering emotions then when that point happened?
I remember the night exactly. I was on a shift at work. It was really busy, as you can imagine, policing in Liverpool. And I just went home that night, and I sat at home, and I just thought, I can't carry on with this. I need to tell somebody. I need to open up.
Yeah.
I need to get some support, and I need to start moving forward.
Because you weren't talking to anybody still at that stage about your gender?
No.
What age were you around?
So that would have been 2008. 2008, 2009.
You're talking 20 years after you went to college, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
there was a long gap.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I always say to people about my journey. There's huge gaps.
Yeah.
And sometimes I look back at that and I think, why are there such huge gaps?
So you kept that to yourself. You didn't really discuss that with anybody for that amount of time.
Yeah.
But you those feelings didn't change. You had those really strong feelings.
It's just like a feeling of torment.
Yeah.
It's never going to go away, but you're trying to suppress it.
Yeah.
And hope it does. It's your identity.
Yeah.
It's your identity.
Yeah.
And at some point you've got to come to terms with that.
Must have been like, I suppose, like being in a bit of a personal kind of prison cell a little bit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You're not allowing yourself to be who you want to be. You're scared of what's going to happen. You don't want to speak openly and publicly about it.
Yeah.
That must have been really tough.
It's fear, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fear.
Yeah.
People often ask me why did it take until then? Fear. Fear of discrimination, fear of a lack of acceptance, fear of losing people around me.
And bringing your feelings when you're a child, those same feelings, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's, in adulthood as well.
So it's just as an adult with a little bit of life experience, maybe you're more able to cope.
So what I want to know is, who did you talk to?
So I got home that night and my first thought was to speak to a family member. But then I thought, is that too close to home? And I was fearful of family rejection.
Yeah.
Because family means everything to me.
Of course, yeah.
So I chose a friend and a colleague at work.
Yeah.
And I told him, just very simply, that I was trans and I need some support.
Can you remember how you worded it to him?
It was very short and sweet.
Was it?
And it was online.
Right, okay.
I just said, listen, I need to tell you something. I'm trans.
Yeah.
And I'm really struggling and I need you to help me. And he was just, an amazing friend to me. Still is.
Can you remember what he said?
He just said, I will start looking for support for you. Because, this might sound a bit odd, but at that point, I wouldn't have even had the confidence to pick up a phone to seek a support group out or, my self-esteem was so low at that point. It was a breaking point for me. So he did all of that for me, the practical things.
Yes. Yeah.
So he rang a support group in Manchester where I started to go.
Yeah.
He started to seek out, the organisation, what resources are there?
Yeah.
What staff support networks are there? How inclusive is this organisation? All of those things that I couldn't have done myself.
So you've had a few key people, haven't you, in your life that have been those standout people that have really changed the direction of things for you and picked you up, I think it sounds like, when you were really, really struggling. Yeah. And put you in a position where you could start to move along with that journey yourself properly.
Absolutely. And I think what's key is that they're very much still part of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Significant people.
Yeah.
Only a few, but significant.
Yeah. It seems like people that have helped you in your journey and you're very loyal to them, it sounds like,
Because I wouldn't have got to where I am today without them.
No. So that's amazing, isn't it? Through your journey, you've created these beautiful friendships with people where, it sounds like you don't forget that type of thing. You don't forget people that have helped you and,
Not at all, no. Because people talk about, particularly in organisations now, don't they? Allies and how important is that? What does it mean?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have got to where I am today without significant allies.
Yeah.
So
tell us, so from a police point of view, then you're working in this big organisation, very male orientated, sorry. Very kind of, masculine male, tough, kind of, environment, which you probably had to, in your daily work, had to kind of, tag along with that and be that in some cases, in some situations. You got to be tough, haven't you, as a police officer, full stop, whether you're a man or a woman or you're transgender, you've got to be a tough character, haven't you? Yeah. And be resilient. Yeah. What was the reaction of, we could have a podcast, I think, for about 5 hours talking about this, and I'm sure we'll bring you back. But what I want to get to is that Your police career was quite significant in your journey, wasn't it? Because it started off quite tough, didn't it? When you did start to open up about your gender. And I've just asked you the world's longest question there, without even asking you a question. But how did that start then? So once you kind of opened up and started kind of talking about it a little bit more, what happened to you in those kind of, those early stages of being openly trans?
Well, it was a very slow process, what I describe as my double life, because I told somebody in work and it was like release, it was out, I knew it was going forward very slowly and I was becoming Christian. Yeah. But I did it very privately. So a double life of being Christian at home and my former self in work. Yeah. And that was me tentatively working out how strong am I to cope with this. And I think it is important and significant to say that I was the first person in the history of Merseyside Police to transition. Yeah. So there wasn't anybody else.
There's no markers, there's no,
There's no benchmark, and there's nobody else to go to. How did you cope with it? Yeah. So I think I was right to take it very slowly. Yeah. But it became quite a long double life. It went on for 3 years. And so it wasn't until 2012 that I actually then went public and became Christian legally and walked through the doors, as me. I took 3 weeks annual leave. Yeah. Went off as one person, came back as another. Yeah. And that's how I did it.
What was the reaction
I think
from people? I'm sure there's mixed reactions as well. There's people in that were very supportive, people that were like shocked, people that judged you.
Oh, absolutely. Because you've got to remember I'd been in that organisation for 18 years. Yeah. As my former self.
Yeah. And I think it's important to say before you start is that this isn't about Merseyside Police. This is about any organisation. This is something that lots of people that have, followed your journey and been where you are would have had to have done the same thing. And it's human nature, isn't it, to kind of, to have different reactions to something like that,
I suppose I went on a journey with Merseyside Police because that was my career. Yeah. It was difficult. It was challenging. You're right. There was a mixture of responses. I had some fantastic allies. Yeah. But I faced some challenging behaviour as well. But when I look back now, I can really see why that happened. Yeah. It wasn't because people didn't want to support me or to be my friend and colleague. It was because they just weren't equipped. Yeah. They weren't educated. Yeah. They didn't know what language to use. And I suppose the big one is they were frightened of making a mistake. Yeah. And upsetting me.
Which is understandable, isn't it? That's the same now, 10, 15 years later, people still worry about that, don't they? Yeah. Got some genuine people that really want to support people in the best possible way. Yeah. But they just don't know what language to use and what to say and how to approach it. Yeah. A lot of nervousness around it, isn't there?
Definitely. And, but at the same time, even though it might not be malicious, I suppose you have to think about the impact of that on somebody's
of course you do,
well-being. You know, when somebody is, I walk down corridors and people that had known me for 18 years just walked past me and blanked me and never uttered one word to me, like they'd never met me before in their life. Yeah. I used to go home and cry, at night and think, again, going back to those early years and childhood and school, the loneliness, the isolation, you're reliving it all again. Yeah.
And you probably had some very difficult situations with those people where you've had to support. And you felt supported and you supported them. So to be kind of rejected in that way by people that you have, been in difficult situations with, so felt like you'd bonded with them. Yeah. For them then to reject you, that must have been tough.
It was really tough. And I honestly don't think unless you start talking about it with people, they really understand the impact of their behaviour. Because to that person who walked past me in a corridor, that's probably just, I don't really know what to say. So do you know what? I'll just walk past him. Yeah. It's okay. I can do that. Yeah.
I when I was in a school in Warrington before I came to the trust a few years ago, I helped a girl that was that wanted to transition, to a boy that had those feelings that started that journey. And I remember reflecting on it and thinking, wow, she was basically coming out and being vulnerable to 1,000 people all at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, this is my name now, this is who I am. And I think she stood up in an assembly once, and I just thought, that's one of the bravest things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
So that must have been similar for you. You're in this big organisation, you know.
Yeah.
As we've explained, the environment is challenging and tough, and
yeah.
So you know your bravery in that situation. You know, did you ever reflect back on that and think?
I do, obviously, because sometimes it helps you to realise how far you've come.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes when you have those low days, and like we all do, and you then realise just how strong you are, and actually, how did I even survive?
Yeah.
So I do reflect on it to kind of give myself a bit of a boost sometimes, because I think, you know, that was strength and determination.
Yeah.
It was motivation to not walk away from my career, which I'm sure some people may have felt that's what they had to do.
Yeah.
Do you know, I can remember sitting in my office before I actually made that decision to go legal and public. And I remember saying to myself, you either leave the organisation and go and work somewhere more inclusive.
It's one or the other.
Or you do something about it.
Yeah.
You do something about it.
Yeah.
Don't wait for somebody else.
Yeah.
And I look back at that and I think, you found the strength from somewhere, and look at where that's got you, you know. Yeah. But it was difficult.
Yeah.
There was lots of days of just wanting to run away and go home, you know, walking from the train station at Lime Street to headquarters thinking, I just want to go home.
Yeah, just want to,
But you can't, you know, I'm walking into work every day and...
Well, it says a lot about your resilience, doesn't it? That you're able to do that and have the strength to do that. And, you know, it sounds like you've had some fantastic allies.
Yeah.
You know, the strength to do that publicly. Yeah. I think what we haven't got time today is talk about that kind of, you know, when the journey kind of was complete and the physical aspect of it. But I'd love you to come back and talk a little bit more about your journey. What I wanted to kind of finish on was, I suppose, a little bit of insight into how that journey from that we've discussed today, how that's kind of affected you positively, how you have then, as a result of that, when you retired from the police, how you wanted to help other people in that journey. So there's two parts of that. So how it's kind of affected you from, you know, you as a person and your resilience, and then kind of, you know, why you want to help people in similar situations to you, and also parents and families, and, you know, all that aspect. It's not just about the individual, is it? It's about people having more of an understanding of this area and how it can affect people, how you can support them, what you can do to try and manage a really challenging, you know, society, you know, issue, isn't it? You know, at the minute.
It's a current society, global subject, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, people really need to be educated about that. But what I would say with regards to me and how it's changed me, it's been a life-changing journey.
Yeah.
It's transformed me as a person. You know, sometimes I look back at myself, my former self, and I don't even recognise that person. And if you'd have said to me 10, 15 years ago, you know, do you think one day you might be a motivational speaker?
Yeah.
I would have said, absolutely not. I've not got the confidence. And now I'm confident.
Yeah.
You know, I'm happy. I'm resilient. I'm strong.
Yeah.
And I'm finally living my life.
Yeah.
Do you know, I'm finally living my life for me.
Yeah.
And, you know, as I say to most people, you know, living my best life.
Yeah.
You know, it's never too late to get to that place in your life and live your best life and start adventures. And so, it's been life-changing. And also what was important to me, I suppose I'm lucky enough to have had two very kind of exciting careers, but careers that mean I care for other people.
Cool.
Policing, and now work as a professional speaker.
Yeah.
Why do I do that? Because I care about people who are on the same journey as me.
And it's using, isn't it, what you said before, that lived experience. You've got a really unique kind of selling point, but I mean, you've got a unique kind of story, unique experience that you can pass on to others. So tell me about who you work with now then. So the podcast is about kind of people that have been through significant trauma, really challenging, difficult situations,
Yeah.
and how they've come out the other side and how they help people.
Yeah.
So tell us about some of the work that you do with organisations and young people, and tell us about the impact of that work as well. And
Yeah. So I decided, obviously, to start speaking out about my journey, using my voice to educate. But the reason I did that is because I realised that there was such a gap in this support. It's a very specific journey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you just said, it's a very niche area of lived experience. Yeah. So I started using my voice really because I felt like I needed to, and I wanted to educate people. I wanted to raise awareness because I didn't want the journey to be so difficult for other people as it has been for me.
Yeah.
Because I used to sit there and think, why does it have to be this difficult?
Yeah.
So initially I just started speaking very locally, but then it just grew and grew. So I set up Gender Space UK and I started working, in the Northwest, but then it grew and went national. And so, like working with yourself, I work in schools, youth centres, but a diverse range of organisations, the NHS, safeguarding, Parliament. So lots of different organisations, but what I'm doing it for is to raise awareness of gender transition, the challenges and the struggles people go through, and how you as a person, as an individual or as an organisation can make sure that support and inclusivity is there for the person so that it's a positive experience. Because, at times this journey can become quite dark. Yeah. And also it's not just the individual, like you said, it's the family members, it's the siblings. How do they support a young person or an old person like me going through?
It's huge, isn't it? And, the insight that you can give. I mean, we haven't even talked about your family yet. We haven't talked about the physical aspect of your transition, which I know you very openly talk about in talks to colleges and universities and the NHS and stuff. So I think you are going to need to come back and we'll specifically talk about some of those key areas. But I think I've seen the impact of what you deliver, and I think you've delivered quite a few things for me, and it's quite an emotional story. It's quite an emotional story for people to listen to. And I think when they understand the impact that it has on a family or of you as a person, I think it does bring people to tears, doesn't it? It's really emotive, isn't it?
It is. And I think what you just touched on then is about the family aspect. That's really important for me personally to talk about, isn't it? Yeah. Particularly for young people or people in schools going through it. Because if the support isn't in the home, that support
where is it?
Needs to be somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think by people like me talking about experiences with family members and sometimes that loss or bereavement that you go through, that's really important because sometimes as gay and trans people, we find, a logical family, don't we, rather than a biological family. Yeah. And that might be from a school or a youth centre. So I think it's a really important part of transition to talk about. Yeah.
I think what's really clear is that you're so reflective on your story. You know yourself really well. You've been through this amazing journey, and to whenever we speak, we always talk about how kind of privileged you are to do what you do. You never take it for granted, but you're in a position and a space now where you're able to educate others. Yeah. And I feel that that's what you've really done today, but there's also another aspect of this story as well. And I just didn't want to rush that family aspect of it and also the physical aspect of transitioning. So I think when you do come back, hopefully you will come back and talk in a bit more detail about those areas, because I think it's so impactful that I didn't really want to rush that part. So I think you're definitely a two-parter anyway, so come back and speak to us. But and thank you so much for sharing your story and being so open and honest, and hopefully our listeners and our watchers have kind of have taken a lot from it, and they maybe think in a different way about somebody that's been through your journey, or are not as judgmental. If they've got a family member or a friend that's going through something, maybe this will help them to understand that a little bit more. So just thank you so much for coming onto the Great in You podcast.
You're very welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
And we'll see you again. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks or whenever you're available, because I know you're busy.
No, it'd be good to come back, because like you say, there are some specific areas that I think would be good to talk about, such as family and the medical journey, and
Yeah.
it's something what a lot of people want to know about.
Yeah.
Particularly if they're transitioning themselves.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get some feedback from viewers and say, when's the next one? When's Christian coming back on? But again, thank you so much, and thanks for sharing your time with us today.
Thanks, Stephen.
All right, thank you. Thanks everybody for listening to the Great in You podcast. We really appreciate your support. Please like, subscribe and share, and the podcast will be available on Spotify, YouTube and all other social media platforms. Thank you so much. See you next time.